All right, let's briefly go over some of the changes that I've made to my screen here. This is not meant to be an exhaustive video on how to use all of the code or possibilities of the different tools and how they're used, but it's really to help people think more about like how you would structure crews and how you can actually use these in real world situations. There are a lot of videos out there already explaining how to set up complex systems and things like that, so I'm trying to take it back a little bit earlier in the process. So here we have our crew AI import agents. We also have our tools. We're using directory read, file read, SERPer, and website search tool. Now, the SERPer tool is something that's very powerful because it allows us to use, and you have to get an API key to do it, the SERPer system, or really any API. You could build your own custom tools around different APIs to be able to pull the data from here and feed the agent data on really any topic. If there's data out there on the web, it can find it. How I tend to use these tools is actually build out 5 or 6 different types of search structures. So I'm hitting the different engines. I might be hitting Wikipedia, whatever it is. The objective is I like to get a lot of data, and I like to have the agent sort through all of that different data for me and understand kind of, does it align with the objectives? And there's a number of things that LLMs are good at. And one of those things is understanding data, understanding sentiment, understanding topics, understanding what is the article about, what is the content about, does it match your approach, so you can imagine what this does for the possibilities of just general-based research and overall. So if we look here, after you have your SERPer dev tool, you'll get an API. And we're going to modify this a little bit because I wanted to take a step back here and show you this is trying to find the latest data on the AI industry. I'm actually going to change this and say that this goal is to find up-to-date market analysis of current companies held by Google ABC. Okay, right? In addition to this, we already have these. So it's going to go out. It's going to be, when this is started, the agent's going to go, hey, these are the tools I have to use in order to meet my agent-based goals. Now, in addition, we have content writer. I'm going to have this one change a little bit. Craft an engaging blog post about the company and its holdings, include company names and other relevant information. Now, I'm being very vague here. I have an idea a little bit about what I'm trying to get at. This is why I talked earlier about why it's so important to think about what is the end result you're trying to get from your crew system and from your agentic system. So in this case, I would use other different types of techniques. More advanced techniques that I tend to use are using Pydantic models, which can allow you to basically force a structure against the task results, so that if the AI agent is looking at something and it's like a category, and a category has, let's say we're trying to find books by an author or books on a topic, and we want to know author and we want to know publication date and topics that support it, we would create a Pydantic model that basically can hold the schema of that. And then when the AI is out there looking for it, when the tasks are out there running that, it'll compare back to that object and go, oh, look at that. This data I got back doesn't have enough, so it's not complete. Now, there are errors that can sometimes happen if you put yourself in a situation where that information just can't be found. You'll usually get a type class sub 1 error or something like that. I've gotten a lot of them, hundreds and hundreds of them. It's my number one error right now that I get because I'm really trying to focus and formulate that model. Here, I'm being pretty loose in my definition. I'm really just trying to understand some basic information, and I'm going to let the AI kind of determine what that is at this point. That can be good or bad, depending on if you're using like an OpenAI or an Anthropic, or you're using like Gemini or some other type of model. I'm going to be using a local model. In this case, I told you Llama, but even on my PC, Llama's running pretty slow. So I actually think I'm going to switch over to using Gemma, which is a 2B model. It's a little bit better. Still a Q8 model, but it should be a little bit lighter in responses. So going back to our code, we have this last piece here is the tasks. We didn't talk a lot about the tasks, but you can apply a lot of different parameters to the tasks as well, including inputs, expected outputs, and things like that, to be able to really help refine what they're going to produce. So if we go back here to documentation, we can take a look at tasks in detail. And there's a lot of information out here on tasks, but you can kind of get a little bit of an understanding that with tasks, you see the whole parameters are down here, I believe. Let's see. Trying to find the larger list of task attributes. Here you go. So description, expected output, what you think the data should look like. Mostly it's gonna, I have a lot of luck returning JSON objects or exported file types. I think there's still some things lacking as far as like a save process that can be kind of really systematic. So I had to design my own save process as a tool. That's very important to do because you want to check back and make sure that your AI is getting the right data, doing the right tasks, and completing the objectives that you set forth. So we have output Pydantic, which really takes a look at the Pydantic model if you want to use that. It's really good for making sure that things are structured. Callbacks as well. And because this is agent-based AI, you can also incorporate human input if you're in a situation where you get stuck there. So where would that be happening is, let's say you're looking at a company with the name Triangle, and there's 20 companies in Triangle, and some are in this industry and some are in the other industry. Like one's in fishing and one's in healthcare, and you only want the one in healthcare. When it's pulling back all of that data from the search engines and SERPs, you can look at that and go, hey, I found the agent, what it will do is it'll be like, hey, I found 5 different companies with the name Triangle. Which one should I focus on? And then you could add additional input to it and be like, oh, I'm really looking to focus only on the one that deals in fishing products. Now, with memory included and things like that, sometimes you're going to get it to keep going in the right direction, but that's one of the challenges with these tools, is trying to be able to get the right approach and understand that you're not always going to get the right information back, which is why you still have to look at what you're producing. And I put a lot of secondary validation techniques in place to understand where the data is coming from, what was the source, what was the cited URL. I try to pull back as much as possible, and I specifically use Pydantic models in order to help do that in relation to my tasks. So a task is what you would think it is. It can be many different types of tasks can be attributed to a single agent. And in this case, this task is research the latest trends in the AI industry. I'm actually going to change this task to be a little bit more focused on our goal. Research the latest companies that work with Google ABC and provide a description of how they partner with Google. Now, you could take this in a number of different ways. In fact, I don't even know what the output's going to be here. We may get absolutely nothing. There's a lot of trial and error in this. And once you kind of define a crew that works for you, you can start to build it out in a way that it's going to be able to be used over and over and over again. And you'll start to have a subset of tools that can really help you building out new crew systems in the future. So if we take a look down here a little bit more, we have expected output. In this case, I'm going to change this a little bit and say a summary of the top 5 companies that are working with ABC in AI technologies. Okay. Now, there may or may not be companies there. So we may, once again, not get that output. That's just where I'm going to kind of start with. Now, the next task, and this task is attributed to the researcher. So the researcher is going to go out and perform this task. So is write an engaging blog post about the AI industry. So I'm going to change this a little bit. This is actually going to be write an engaging blog post about Google, ABC, and the companies that they support and how they are currently and what those companies are. What industry those companies are in. Okay? I'm going to leave this a 4-paragraph blog post formatted in Markdown. Markdown is a typical way that you work inside of Crew. I found most people use Markdown. It's just a very quick structured format that can be read by a number of Markdown readers, and you can work with this data output. You'll see it here in a minute when I run this. It's going to take a little bit of time to run it, so I'll probably expedite the video, but it's interesting to see kind of how this all comes together. And then we have Crew. We're going to assemble the Crew. We're going to grab the agents, the researcher, the writer, and the tasks. Now, I have only 2 tasks here just as a quick demo. I could add 20 tasks. I have crews that have 5 tasks, right? What I find works really well is don't be over descriptive in either your description, expected output, just like I mentioned before with roles, goals, and backstory, is try and stay on point. Don't get overly verbose, because all of that data has to go be passed back and forth across the agents and across the LLMs, and they can get confused when they're having that communication chain, especially if you're using local models. In fact, I think we'll see one of those errors coming up here in a moment. So I think my Crew is ready to go. I'm going to go ahead now and I like to take a look briefly at the Crew and see kind of like what's going on.